All right, welcome everyone. Getting around a huge modern city can be pretty tough, especially when you don't speak the language. So today, we're going to break down some absolutely essential Mandarin words for urban transportation. By the end of this, you won't just know the words, you'll understand the fascinating logic behind how they're built.
I mean, really, just picture this. You've just landed in a massive city like Beijing or Shanghai. The energy is absolutely incredible, right? But the signs, they're all unfamiliar. How do you even begin to get from point A to point B? Well, that's the exact challenge we're going to tackle today by learning to think and to speak in Mandarin.
So we are going way beyond just memorizing words from a dictionary. The real key here, the secret, is to understand the logic behind them. Once you see how Mandarin builds these big ideas from tiny, simple pieces, you'll go from feeling like a lost tourist to a totally confident urban explorer. This right here, this is our whole philosophy for today's session. We're not just learning vocabulary. We are learning how to be linguistic detectives, to see the language from the inside out. So let's get started with one of the most common forms of public transport you'll see, the bus.
Okay, first up is the city bus.
The Mandarin term for it is a perfect, and I mean perfect, example of this building block principle we've been talking about. Just watch how these simple individual parts come together to create a really clear, complex idea.
So, at first glance, you see four characters, and you might think, whoa, that looks intimidating. But hold on, let's look a little closer. When we break it down, you're going to see this incredibly elegant logic. This isn't really one long four-character word. Think of it as two two-character words that we've simply joined together.
Okay, let's dissect this. First, we have gong, which means public, and then gong for common or shared. Put them together, and gong gong just means public. Easy enough, right? Then we have qi, which means gas, and finally, our last character, ch, which means vehicle. So, what happens when you put it all together? You get a public gas vehicle. It's a completely logical and descriptive name.
Now, knowing the meaning is only half of the battle. We have to be able to say it right, and that means focusing on the tones. The first character, gong, is a high, flat first tone. Think of holding a clear note. Gong. Then you get two falling fourth tones, which have a sharp drop in pitch. It's like a command. Gong. Qi. The last character, che, is another first tone. Che. A really common mistake is to make all the tones sound flat. You have to give each one its unique shape. So, nice and slow, it sounds like this. Gong, gong, qi, che. Now at a natural pace. Gong, gong, qi, che.
All right, you're starting to see the pattern. Next up, let's see how this exact same building block logic applies to a more personal form of transport, the taxi.
Okay, this time it's three characters, and right away you should notice something familiar. Look at that last one, ch for vehicle. And this is exactly how you start to learn Mandarin more quickly. Once you know a character, it becomes this little key that can unlock dozens of other words for you.
So let's look at how these combine. The first character is chu, which means to go out. The second is zu, to rent. And there's our familiar friend ch, the vehicle. So, a chuzutie is literally a go out and rent vehicle. It's so much more descriptive than our English word taxi, isn't it? The Mandarin term tells you the entire story of what you're doing. Now, the pronunciation here might seem simple, but it's a little bit tricky. All three of these characters are first tones, which means they're high and flat. Zhu, zu, chu. The key is not to rush it. You really want to keep that high, level pitch all the way through and say each sound clearly. So it should sound like this. Zhu, zu, chu. And finally, for our last one today, let's head underground to what is, let's be honest, often the most efficient way to travel in a huge Chinese city, the metro, or the subway.
I have to admit, this next one might be my favorite. It's only two characters, but it paints such a clear and powerful picture of what a subway actually is. It is a fantastic example of just how logical and, well, beautiful Mandarin can be.
Okay, this is a brilliant illustration of Mandarin's descriptive power. So the first character, di, means ground or earth. The second, tie, means iron or metal. So what happens when you put them together? You get di tie, the ground iron. It's a direct, literal reference to the iron rails running through the ground. It's not just a word, it's a perfect description. So cool.
Now the tones here are really important because they contrast so sharply. First you have D, a quick falling fourth tone, D. It's followed immediately by tie, which is a third tone, so it dips down and then rises back up, tie. That sharp fall followed by that little scoop upwards is what makes it sound authentic. Di, tie. And altogether, di tie. That contrast is a huge part of what gives Mandarin its unique sound.
So, there you have it. In just a few minutes, we've learned 3 essential words. But way more importantly, you've started to see the logical system that works behind the scenes in Mandarin vocabulary. You now have a foundational toolkit for getting around, and it's all based on breaking words down. The biggest takeaway here isn't just these 3 words, it's the method. The next time you see a long, complex-looking word, I want your first instinct to be to break it apart. Look for those characters you already know and try to find the logic in how they're combined. If you start using this approach, I promise you, the language is going to start to open up in a much more intuitive way.
Knowing what to call the vehicle, that's step 1. But the next step is actually using these words to ask for directions or to tell a driver where you need to go. For now, just think about the logic that we uncovered today. How else might this whole building block approach change the way you look at language? We'll leave it there for today. Class dismissed.